scene shifted back to the training ground, where Lady Plum Blossom and Theo were engaged in a quiet conversation. Theo, still kneeling, looked up at her with wide eyes, a hint of astonishment in his voice. "You want to pass down the full bloom of the plum blossoms and the heaven dragon sword to me?" Lady Plum Blossom's voice was firm but warm as she replied, "Doesn't that sound exciting?" Without missing a beat, Theo straightened himself, his expression filled with intrigue. "Of course it does." But as his thoughts deepened, a hesitant look clouded his face. He lowered his head again, his voice quieter. "But to tell you the truth, I don't understand why you cherish me so much. I haven't done anything for you." Lady Plum Blossom approached Theo with a gentle, almost maternal expression. Her voice softened, full of warmth. "Stand up, Theo. There's no big reason." She touched her face thoughtfully and continued, "It's just that you remind me of Kyle." Theo's eyes widened, surprise filling his gaze. He looked at her with hesitation, his voice trembling with disbelief. "I remind you of the clan head?" Lady Plum Blossom smiled, her eyes softening as she spoke. "That's right." She met his gaze with a depth of affection. "You are exactly like him in his youth, not just in appearance, but in spirit. He, too, used to chase after his dreams and ideals when he was young." Theo stood frozen, his mind swirling as Lady Plum Blossom's words echoed through him. She looked at him with love, her voice filled with quiet reverence. "No, perhaps he might still be dreaming of them," she mused. "That's why he could never despair. He worked tirelessly to break through any trial or challenge, and every day was an unending hardship. Despite that, he never yielded or bent his principles, and that is what made him the man he is today." A distant memory seemed to flicker in Lady Plum Blossom's eyes, and Theo could sense the weight of her words. But just as quickly, she snapped back to the present. Her lips curled into a soft chuckle as she spoke. "When I see you, I see the side of him that I fell in love with. How could I stand by and do nothing?" Her tone shifted, becoming more serious. "If that answers your curiosity, then it's time for you to give me your answer." Theo met her gaze directly, his expression unwavering. "Ah, right," he said slowly, though his voice now carried a tinge of determination. "It's an attractive offer, but I'll have to decline." Lady Plum Blossom's eyes narrowed at his response, her expression darkening. "What is your reason for declining the offer?" she asked, her voice tight with curiosity and concern. Theo placed his hand on his chest, his tone resolute as he spoke. "I currently have too many teachers. Along with you, Lady Plum Blossom, who has taught me many things, I have others like the Demon Dragon, Commander Julius, my senior dragoons, Evelyn, Selford, and Aaron, my friends and comrades, Remington, Hulkus, Erica, my training ground mates, and even Axion and Ed Troyven. They all are my teachers." Lady Plum Blossom's expression shifted to one of puzzlement. She wasn't sure what Theo was truly getting at. "To even call Axion and the Sky Dragon your teachers, I wasn't expecting that. I heard you were at odds with Ed," she said, her tone filled with curiosity. Theo's gaze remained firm as he looked directly at her, his expression filled with unwavering conviction. "That is exactly why. The hardships they created are what built the person I am today." His voice grew even more resolute as he continued. "My sword has learned and changed because of everyone who has either loved or wronged me." Theo paused, his gaze softening slightly as he spoke with a trace of regret. "But for now, because of that same reason, I'm not confident I will be able to uphold a school's tradition and pass it down to the next generation." Lady Plum Blossom closed her eyes for a moment, her smile returning as she looked at him fondly. Her voice was warm, with a trace of both affection and regret. "You cannot carry on tradition because your sword is ever-changing. That is both endearing and, in some ways, regrettable." As Lady Plum Blossom began to turn, Theo continued, his voice steady, yet filled with sincerity. "But even if I cannot be your disciple," he lowered his head respectfully, his smile gentle yet full of conviction, "I will gladly be your son." Lady Plum Blossom's eyes widened in utter surprise, her expression shifting completely. She had not expected such an endearing gesture from Theo. Her heart skipped a beat, and for a moment, she simply stared at him, overwhelmed by his words. The warmth in her chest was undeniable, and as the realization of his gesture settled in, her feelings were more than clear. Theo had carved a place in her heart, not just as a disciple, but as a true part of her family. The scene shifted to a later time, where Lady Plum Blossom sat gracefully in her garden, the gentle breeze rustling the leaves around her. A servant carefully poured wine into her glass, the rich red liquid shimmering in the light. As Lady Plum Blossom took a delicate sip, a soft smile curled on her lips. Her mind drifted back to her conversation with Theo, and a sense of quiet satisfaction filled her heart. Breaking the silence, the servant's excited voice cut through the peaceful atmosphere. "You must have really taken a liking to him," she remarked, her tone filled with warmth. Lady Plum Blossom's smile deepened as she looked into her glass, her voice soft yet full of emotion. "Of course," she replied, her tone gentle but resolute. "Because the heavens doth not permit, I have not been able to have a child of my own. Yet, a child who is just like him has promised to be my son. How could I not be delighted?" The servant's expression softened in response, a genuine smile forming on her face. "It makes me happy knowing that you are happy, Lady Osa." With a sudden gleam in her eye, Osa's expression shifted to one of excitement. "I should thank Theo for finally making me a mother," she said with a joyful tone. "Can you prepare a letter for me to send to my husband?" The servant looked at her curiously, asking, "What would you like me to relay?" Osa's tone turned more serious as she replied, "It's about Theo's promotion exam." The servant's eyes widened with surprise at the mention of Theo's promotion exam. Her voice shifted, laced with concern. "Pardon my words, but he is a rookie who has only just finished the awakening ceremony. If he were to garner too much attention at such a young age, he might end up falling into danger. You should know that better than anyone, Lady Osa." Lady Plum Blossom's expression hardened as she placed her wine glass on the table with a deliberate motion. Her voice was firm and resolute. "That is why I need to hurry." Her eyes narrowed, a dark edge to her tone as she continued. "Before the great winds that are on their way to the Ragnar clan consume everything, I want to give him as much as I possibly can." The scene then shifted to the cold, grim atmosphere of the white-armored dragon cavalry headquarters, where the swordsman from the Central Intelligence Bureau was held captive in a small, dark cell. His hands were bound by chains, and he sat still, eyes narrowing as he heard someone approaching. It seemed as though he had been waiting for this moment. As the figure approached the bars of the cell, the swordsman's voice rang out, low but clear. "So, finally you are here." A masked man stood at the other side, holding 3 small daggers in his hand. His voice was cold and serious. "Do not resent me. This is all according to his will." The swordsman jolted upright, his eyes blazing with determination. "I would never question his decisions. Now, kill me." Seeing the swordsman's unwavering resolve, the masked man wasted no time. He launched all 3 daggers toward him, but just before they could pierce the swordsman's body, a brilliant green light enveloped him. The daggers deflected mid-air, hurling harmlessly away. The masked man's eyes widened in shock. He couldn't comprehend how his daggers had been deflected, but before he could react further, the roof above him suddenly collapsed, and from the debris, Evelyn Nareville emerged, falling towards him with incredible speed and precision. Her expression was one of pure fury, her eyes burning with righteous anger as she yelled, "I've been waiting for you to come!" Evelyn's sword flashed through the air as she attacked the masked man with all her might. The man, caught off guard, could only attempt to block or dodge her relentless strikes. But Evelyn pressed on, her movements swift and precise, overwhelming him at every turn. The masked man struggled to keep up with her ferocity, his own defenses faltering under the weight of her onslaught. As Evelyn's blade collided with his, the force of the clash caused the masked man's weapon to break. His sword shattered from the sheer power behind her strike. He couldn't believe it. Has she always been this skilled? In that moment of vulnerability, the masked man's gaze shifted to the chained swordsman, his thoughts racing. "It's a shame I couldn't take him out," he thought bitterly. But before he could act, Evelyn was already upon him, her sword raised for the final blow. Realizing the dire situation he was in, the masked man's thoughts raced. "Things will get worse if I'm caught. I need to get out of here and plan for the future." But before he could make a move, Evelyn conjured her mana, the energy swirling around her in a bright green hue. Her eyes were steely with determination as she spoke in a voice that brooked no argument. "I ain't letting you just waltz out of here." With a swift motion, Evelyn unleashed her skill, God of Tempest's secret technique, Squall. A powerful hurricane of energy blasted toward the masked man, hitting him squarely. The force was so intense that it sent him flying, crashing into the wall with a bone-shattering impact. Blood spurted from his mouth as he struggled to regain his footing. Staggering to his feet, the masked man conjured mana into his hand. His thoughts grim. Getting caught like this won't do. I need to get rid of any evidence quickly. He quickly started preparing a desperate move, but Evelyn, ever vigilant, anticipated his next action. She appeared right in front of him before he could even fully channel his mana. With precise skill, she disrupted the flow of energy in his body, her eyes sharp and unwavering. "Why do you all make the same attempt when things go wrong?" she asked with a determined, serious voice. The masked man collapsed to the floor, his energy drained. Evelyn stood over him, her expression hard as stone. "That won't work on me twice," she said coldly, her eyes locking with his as she ensured his defeat. The scene shifted to a small, secluded house deep in the forest, its darkened windows giving little hint of what transpired inside. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with books, and boxes were scattered haphazardly across the floor. In the midst of the quiet, a voice cut through the silence. Today at 1:15 a.m., Evelyn Narraville captured an assassin who snuck into the underground jail alive. Inside the house were Theo, Evelyn, Julius, and another woman wearing a mask, her presence as commanding as the rest. She spoke in a calm but serious tone, her voice carrying the weight of the information she was about to share. "This assassin has been confirmed to be from Serpent Season. Serpent Season is a suborganization of the Eastern elite clan, the Troivan clan. It is likely they are connected to the Sky Dragon, Ed Troivan." Julius, his expression hardening, crossed his arms and narrowed his eyes. "This pretty much confirms our suspicion of having a mole in our midst." The masked woman, whose name was Cleve, nodded in agreement. "Correct. We're holding this meeting in such a remote location to avoid any more intel being leaked." She shifted, her eyes glinting as she continued. "According to our information, Serpent Season is currently based out of an ancient castle in the Calhelm region. Within 3 hours from now, they will consider the mission a failure, burn any evidence, and run. We need to ambush their base before that, round up all their members, and extract information. That is the crux of this joint mission. My name is Cleve, a Null Snow," she said, her voice firm as she concluded her report. "This concludes my report." Theo, arms crossed, absorbed the weight of the situation. To think I would get to meet an agent with the rank of Null Snow. He thought inwardly, his mind racing with the implications. Julius tilted his head slightly, his eyes narrowing as he shifted his focus to Theo. His tone grew serious as he spoke. "There is one more thing to add." He paused, ensuring the gravity of his next words sank in. "This mission shall also serve as a promotion exam for Theo Ragnar." Theo and Evelyn both stared at him in shock, completely caught off guard by the unexpected announcement. Theo leaned forward, his voice tinged with confusion. "Have I already earned the qualifications for a promotion exam?" Julius sighed, his tone heavy with a hint of weariness. "That's right," he said, his eyes steady. "But it's not all roses and daisies. The difficulty of your promotion exam has just gone up." Theo's mind reeled, his heart racing at the sudden change in his path. What had seemed like a straightforward mission now carried the weight of a critical test. The stakes had been raised. Julius narrowed his eyes, his expression hardening as he spoke in a low, serious tone. "As you rise through the ranks, it's normal for the difficulty of the exam to escalate. However, what is not normal is assigning a mission that could lead to a civil war for a mid-rank swordsman promotion exam." His words cut through the room, carrying the weight of authority. Evelyn, her face a mixture of disbelief and frustration, closed her eyes, unable to fully process the magnitude of what was being asked. Julius continued, his voice sharp and unwavering. "I heard you ordered Evelyn to stake out the cells because you knew an assassin would come. Since you started this on your own, you are being asked to see it through." Theo's eyes widened in shock. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. His voice trembled as he tried to process the responsibility being placed on him. "My apologies," he began, but before he could finish, Julius swiftly grabbed Theo's head, pulling it under his arm in a move that was both casual and commanding. With a grin on his face, he said, "Even if you are an heir, it's disrespectful of you to plan things without discussing them with the higher-ups. Since it has come to this, you must complete your mission flawlessly." Julius gave Theo a playful yet firm headbutt, a gesture meant to both challenge and encourage him. "Get promoted to a mid-rank swordsman and earn solo mission privileges." "Understood." Theo scratched his head, a slight smile forming on his face despite the tension in the room. "Yes, sir." But inwardly, he couldn't shake the thought. This incident, it's beginning to revolve around me. I didn't think I would become the center of attention like this. Just as his thoughts began to swirl, a sudden flicker in his vision caught his attention. The system notification window popped up in front of him, its contents stark and chilling. Scenario Quest 4. Dark Ties of the Previous Life. This is your chance to clean up the dark ties of your past life. Stop their insidious plot. Theo's fist clenched, his anger rising as the description sank in. Yeah, I've always been curious. What is it that ties me and them together to cause all of this? Cleve, who had been silent until now, turned to Theo, her voice sharp with a hint of suspicion. Do you have a problem, Theo Ragnar? Theo straightened, his expression hardening with determination. No, I do not, he replied instantly. His eyes narrowed, the weight of the mission ahead heavy on his shoulders. This mission, I will complete it no matter what. Julius slammed both hands onto the table, his movements sharp and decisive as he rose to his feet. His voice was commanding, yet laced with a sense of approval. Good. Now that you've been briefed. He paused, a grin forming on his face as he narrowed his eyes, his tone shifting to one of cold excitement. It's time to start the snake cleanup.